Big developments tonight as the family of Hae Min Lee pushes for a new hearing now to review whether Adnan Syed should have been released from prison. So in new court papers, the Lee family attorney accuses the court of not following procedure by holding a meeting.
On January 13, 1989, 18-year-old high school senior Hae Min Lee left Woodlawn High School in Baltimore County. She was driving her gray 1998 Nissan Sentra, planning to pick up her younger cousin from daycare and then head to her after school shift at LensCrafters. Friends and teachers described her as responsible, punctual, and caring. But that afternoon, she never arrived at the daycare. She never showed up for work. For a young woman like Hae, who rarely broke plans and always followed through on her duties, this sudden disappearance was alarming. By evening, her family knew something was terribly wrong. At around 6:30 p.m., police were contacted. They began asking questions, reaching out first to those closest to her. They spoke with Adnan Syed, her ex-boyfriend and a fellow student at Woodlawn. Adnan told officers the last time he saw Hae was at school when classes ended. Investigators also contacted Don, Hae's current boyfriend and co-worker. Some believed she may have gone to see him, but Don insisted he hadn't seen her that day. Hours passed and there were still no signs of Hae. Hae's family worried deeply. Friends tried calling her, but there was no answer. Her absence was not like her. It was completely out of character. What began as a simple school day had now turned into a night filled with fear and confusion. Police launched searches, questioned students, and looked for her car. Yet no leads appeared. The community was shaken. A bright, active teenager had simply vanished in broad daylight. Everyone who knew her hoped she might walk through the door, safe and smiling. But as the hours stretched into days, hope began to fade. 4 weeks later, the truth would come out in the most devastating way, changing the lives of her family, friends, and classmates forever. Body found in park nearly a month after Hae Min Lee went missing on February 9, 1999, the search took a grim turn. A man named Alonso Sellers, who worked at a local community college, pulled off the road near Leakin Park. He wandered into the woods, looking for a private spot. Instead of privacy, he stumbled upon something horrifying. Beneath the leaves and dirt, he discovered what appeared to be a partially buried human body. Shaken, he contacted the authorities. Police rushed to the scene and confirmed what many feared. It was Hae. Her body was found in a shallow grave, only a short distance from the road. Leakin Park already carried a grim reputation. It was an area known to locals and police alike as a dumping ground for bodies, a place tied to violence and crime. Yet for Hae's family and friends, it was unthinkable that this bright young woman would end up there. The medical examiner's autopsy revealed she had died from manual strangulation. This wasn't an accident, nor was it random misfortune. It was a deliberate act of violence. Someone had taken her life and then hidden her in the dirt, hoping she would never be found. For investigators, this changed the case immediately. It was no longer just a missing persons search. It was a murder investigation. The discovery raised new questions. Who killed Hae? Why? And how did her car, her belongings, and her final moments fit into this terrible scene? Police began looking closely at those around her. The man who found the body was questioned, as was Don, her current boyfriend, but no evidence connected them. Leads felt thin, and frustration grew. Still, detectives believed the answers had to lie close to Hae's world, her school, her relationships, and her circle of friends. Soon, one name would come to dominate their investigation: Adnan Syed. Adnan under suspicion after the shocking discovery of Hae Min Lee's body in Leakin Park, detectives searched for leads. At first, suspicion briefly circled around Don, Hae's current boyfriend, but his alibi placed him at work. Investigators then looked at the man who found her body, but nothing linked him to the crime. For weeks, the case stalled until police received an anonymous phone call. The tip was short but pointed: look at Adnan Syed. Adnan was Hae's ex-boyfriend and a fellow student at Woodlawn High School. The two had dated for months, sharing a close and sometimes complicated relationship. Their breakup in December had left Adnan upset, and by the time Hae started seeing Don, some believed Adnan had grown jealous. To police, this suggested motive. Detectives pulled Adnan's cell phone records from the day Hae disappeared. Strange details emerged. Calls connected him to people who later became key witnesses. One of them was Jennifer Pusateri, who, after meeting with her lawyer, told police that Adnan's friend Jay Wilds had confided something shocking: Adnan killed Hae. When questioned, Jay admitted he was with Adnan on the day Hae vanished. His story changed over time, but the core remained. He claimed Adnan strangled Hae, then asked him for help to bury her body. To prove he wasn't lying, Jay led officers to Hae's car, which had not yet been located. This detail gave investigators what they felt was solid proof. By late February, just 6 weeks after Hae's disappearance, police arrested Adnan Syed. The case against him centered on Jay's testimony, backed by cell tower records that appeared to place Adnan near Leakin Park the night Hae was buried. To investigators, it seemed the puzzle was finally solved. But in reality, the case was only beginning, and the world would later learn that the answers were far from simple. Other theories rise when Adnan Syed was arrested. Many people believe the case was closed, but years later, questions began to surface. In 2014, the popular podcast Serial re-examined the case and cast doubt on the evidence that put him behind bars. Listeners around the world wondered if Adnan didn't kill Hae Min Lee, then who did? That question opened the door to many alternative theories. Some believe Jay Wilds, the star witness, was more involved than he admitted. His story shifted several times, raising doubts about his credibility. Could it be that Jay himself killed Hae and then blamed Adnan to protect himself? Others suspected that Jay and his friend Jennifer Pusateri worked together. Their names appeared in phone records that day, and critics argued they might have built a story to shield one another. Still, no evidence directly tied either of them to the crime. Attention also turned to Dawn, Hae's new boyfriend. On paper, he had an alibi. He was at a LensCrafter store. But the manager who confirmed his timesheet was his mother's girlfriend, which raised suspicions. Why did police not push harder to confirm his movements? Then there was Mr. S, the man who discovered Hae's body. Some found it suspicious that he wandered so far into the woods just to relieve himself. He even failed one polygraph test before passing a second. Yet investigators never built a case against him. Theories also expanded beyond Hae's close circle. A man named Roy Davis, who had killed another young woman in a similar way, lived near the area. Others pointed to Ronald Lee Moore, a convicted criminal released just before Hae's disappearance. Both men were plausible suspects, but no DNA evidence tied them to Hae's murder. These theories created a storm of speculation. If Adnan wasn't guilty, the real killer could still be out there. And with each new idea, the truth seemed harder to pin down. Justice in questions in 2000, after months of investigation and a dramatic trial, Adnan Syed was found guilty of Hae Min Lee's murder. He was convicted of first-degree murder, robbery, kidnapping, and false imprisonment. The sentence was harsh, life in prison plus 30 years. For many, the conviction seemed to bring justice. Hae's family believed the person responsible was behind bars. But for others, doubts lingered. The evidence had holes, and the case leaned heavily on Jay Wilds' changing testimony and cell phone tower data that experts later questioned. Years passed, and Adnan remained in prison. 14. The podcast Serial reignited worldwide interest. Millions tuned in as host Sarah Koenig dissected every detail. The timeline system had failed him, that crucial evidence and possible suspects were overlooked. Others, however, believed the original verdict was correct, that motive, means, and opportunity all pointed to Adnan. In 2022, after more than 20 years behind bars, Adnan's conviction was vacated, and he was released. Yet the legal battle wasn't over. The Maryland Supreme Court later reinstated his conviction, citing issues with how Hae's family was notified about the proceedings. As of now, Adnan's future remains uncertain. What hasn't changed is the grief felt by Hae's loved ones. While legal arguments continue, a young woman lost her life in 1999 and her family never received true closure. Justice feels unsettled. Was Adnan guilty, or was he a victim of wrongful conviction? The questions remain haunting both the courtroom and the public imagination. Even after decades, the story of Hae Min Lee continues to raise painful questions. A bright young woman lost her life, a family lost their daughter, and a community is still divided over what really happened. Adnan Syed's conviction, release, and legal battles show how fragile the idea of justice can be when doubt lingers. Was he truly guilty, or has the real killer never been found? The case leaves us with more questions than answers. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more true crime stories. Now we ask you, do you believe Adnan Syed was wrongfully convicted, or do you think justice was served?